On the eve of my husband's execution, my maid me sneaked into the prison to spend the night with him, hoping to bear an heir for the Zhou family. 10 months later, after giving birth to a son, me resolutely threw herself into the river. Deeply moved, I abandoned any thoughts of remarriage and dedicated myself to raising my adopted son, Zhou Yihui. Since he was illiterate, I sent him to the military camp, where, with my father's support, he rose swiftly through the ranks. Little did I know that during the war with the Southern Nanyue, he betrayed the country, taking with him the border defense maps. My father's border defenses fell, enraging the emperor, who sentenced the entire Bai family of 79 to execution. On the eve of the execution, a pair of arrogant middle-aged lovers entered the prison cell. Why suffered so much injustice at your side, causing my family to lose our family happiness? Now you finally got what you deserve. It turned out that Zhou Jingyan and me had faked their deaths. Zhou Yihui was a pawn they had deliberately placed by my side. After the executioner cut off my flesh piece by piece with a blunt knife, I was reborn on the day Zhou Jingyan was beheaded. Just as the execution was about to begin, someone swapped the real Zhou Jingyan to the execution platform. I looked at the executioner in horror and cried out, "Stop! This man isn't my husband. Where have you hidden my husband? Bring him out immediately." Realizing that I had been reborn back to the execution site where Zhou Jingyan was about to be beheaded, I stared intently at Zhou Jingyan, who was bound and gagged on the high platform, not blinking once. At that moment, the executioner had just verified his identity, and he had not yet been swapped out. Though he was dressed in prison garb and his hair was disheveled, he stood tall and proud, with a look of unwavering resolve, showing no signs of panic before his impending death. me, who was standing beside me, looked at Zhou Jingyan with admiration in her eyes. "My lord, with such literary integrity and righteousness in the face of death, you are truly a great hero." "Humph. He won't die at all. So of course he's calm. But this time, he won't escape so easily." A commotion arose from the crowd in the distance, briefly distracting the executioner. In that instant, Zhou Jingyan on the platform was dragged into the gap below the high platform. The executioner swiftly pulled out a man of similar build from the crack. The trick was simple, but executed with such speed that it was hard to notice. The commotion was quickly quelled, and the executioner raised his token, his expression stern. "The time has come. Carry out the execution." I clenched my fists, rushed out of the crowd, and cried out to the executioner in a panic. "Wait, Lord. There is something suspicious about this case. You cannot carry out the execution." The person who had framed Zhou Jingyan was the all-powerful Prime Minister Pei Yuhui. Today's executioner, Lord Su of the Ministry of Personnel, is known for his strictness, and it was he who specifically assigned him to this task. When Lord Su saw that I was stopping the execution, he frowned deeply and said, "Lady Zhou, Zhou Jingyan is guilty of treason and selling secrets to the enemy. It did not affect your family, so you should be grateful to His Majesty for his mercy. If you continue to cause trouble, don't blame me for disregarding the reputation of the old general." May also pulled me back and persuaded me loudly, "Miss, your husband-in-law is dying unjustly. Yet he is so calm. You are making a scene in front of everyone, which is really embarrassing for him. Don't make a scene anymore. If you are really sad, just remain faithful to him for the rest of your life, and you will still be able to fulfill your deep love for him." May was saved by my father on the frontier. She was an orphan whose parents had both died when she was 12. I encountered bandits on the road, and May blocked them so that I could escape, saving my life. Out of gratitude for saving my life, I never held her words against her. Now, hearing these words, the hidden intentions behind them feel like poisonous needles piercing my heart. I clenched my teeth and slapped her across the face. Shut up. What do you mean? Die unjustly? My husband's sentence was personally approved by the emperor. Are you implying that the emperor made a mistake? Do you want to kill me? She covered her face and looked at me grimly. I turned my head toward Lord Su, who was already impatient, and curtsied. Lord, I am not being unreasonable. There is something wrong with the man tied to the platform. I wanted to take one last look at my husband before the execution, but I discovered that this man is not my husband at all. I prepared many yellow paper ingots with my own hands. If I burn them for this stranger, what will my husband use in the afterlife? She frantically covered my mouth and nose. Lady, be silent. Isn't it better that he's not your husband? Why make a scene? But it was already too late. The soldiers rushed forward and forced the man's face up from the execution platform. It was clearly not Zhou Jing'an's handsome face. Lord Su's expression changed, and he quickly ordered the soldiers to disperse the crowd. I collapsed on the ground and cried loudly. Damn it! Who kidnapped my husband? Where are you? Are you already down there? Upon hearing this, Lord Su immediately signaled to the people around him. Sure enough, they soon found Zhou Jing'an huddled in a corner of the execution platform, his body curled up and squeezed into the narrow space. When he was dragged out, he had lost all the composure he had shown earlier when facing danger. Instead, his face was ashen, and his body trembled like a sieve. He looked like a wild dog on the brink of death. That night, Pei Yuhui sent a message, requesting to see me alone. On the way to his residence, she tried to persuade me with a magnanimous expression. Miss, you can hit me if you want. I won't blame you. I know that you and my husband had a brief affair, and that you feel bad about it. That's only human nature. But you've been married into the Zhou family for 2 years and still haven't conceived. My husband is the only son in his family, and I'm just trying to give him an heir. Otherwise, how can you face the Zhou family ancestors? Back then, I never doubted these foolish words. Now, having lived this life again, everything is clear before my eyes. Zhou Jing'an came from a poor family and studied hard for years before passing the imperial examination as a second-class scholar. But due to lack of money to bribe officials, he was assigned to a low-ranking position as a librarian in a minor government office. On his days off, he had to sell paintings and calligraphy on the street to buy medicine for his sick mother. One day, my horse was startled and trampled his painting and calligraphy stall. Coming from a family of military officers, I had a favorable impression of this refined and elegant scholar. It was through his marriage to my family that Zhou Jing'an was able to advance in his career. Without my financial support, his mean mother, who was kept alive by ginseng, would have died long ago. Even if I never have children, how could I ever repay his family, whose ancestors were so poor they had to beg for food? I curled my lips and didn't respond, wanting to hear what else she had planned. Madam, Lord Pei is a former subordinate of our master. He was very fond of you back then and even asked for your hand in marriage. But upon hearing that you've been running around on behalf of your husband lately, he's hardened his heart and refuses to see you. He must be jealous of your deep affection for your husband. So, when you see him this time, miss, you mustn't be foolish and beg for your husband's mercy. Instead, lead him to reflect on his feelings for you. She leaned in close and whispered, if necessary, even sacrificing your own body. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, so you're saying that to save my husband, even if I were to marry Pei Yuhui without any status or name, it wouldn't matter? She looked as if she understood everything. Of course. You love your husband deeply, and as long as you can save his life, you would sacrifice everything, including your family's wealth and your own life. Without hesitation. I understand you best. I looked coldly at Shimei, who was full of confidence. She did understand me very well. In my previous life, she exploited my foolish kindness to the extreme, making me devote myself entirely to supporting her and Zhou Jing'an's son, leading our Bai family into an abyss of despair. Back then, Shi Mei's farewell letter and the embroidered shoe by the river easily made me believe she was utterly devoted to me, even going so far as to take her own life after giving birth to our child. Even when Pei Yuhui, out of childhood affection, offered me a place to stay and arranged a marriage proposal through intermediaries, I firmly refused. I was consumed by the desire to raise this young, vulnerable child before me. Yet this Zhou Hui, whom I had poured my heart and soul into, raising and supporting as my own son, delivered a crushing blow to my heart before I died. Bai Jiayan, you have dominated me for 19 years, preventing me from reuniting with my parents. Now, you are merely sacrificing your entire clan to accompany me in death. And you are allowed to die so easily with the punishment of Ling Qi. Your parents truly are merciful toward you. Being raised by you, a crude and vulgar northern barbarian woman, is the greatest shame of my life. The carriage came to a sudden halt, snapping me out of the nightmare of being flayed and dismembered from my previous life. Before getting off the carriage, Shi Mei took advantage of my distraction and loosened my hairpin. Yes, that's right. It looks a little more disheveled, but your eyes are more charming and seductive, which will make Lord Pei feel sorry for you. I suddenly shook off her hand. Shi Mei, I am the only daughter of the mighty general of the South. How can you ask me to disregard my reputation and serve 2 husbands? What are you thinking? Shi Mei couldn't help but snicker. Miss, have you lost your mind? What do you mean? Serve 2 husbands? Lord Pei is the chief minister and has never married. How many young ladies from prominent families are interested in him? Do you really think he would sincerely want to marry you? I strode forward quickly, while she ran after me, whispering urgently. He's just taking advantage of the situation to toy with you for a while. You must play the role of a plaything obediently and not overstep your bounds. Don't worry. Once my husband is cleared of all charges and regains his freedom, I will keep tonight's events a secret. When we arrived at a door, she still wanted to follow me into the inner room. However, she was stopped by the guards at the door, who pushed her away with their swords. Lord Pei is hearing a case. No unauthorized persons are allowed to approach. Shi Mei's face immediately darkened, and she looked up and down at the 2 guards with a sinister look in her eyes. She was probably scheming about how, once she endured this humiliating life, she would crush these insolent guards under her feet. Pei Yuhui, dressed in a black brocade robe, stood by the window, gazing into the distance with a distant expression. When he turned and saw me, his deep phoenix eyes flickered imperceptibly. Even though I had been married for many years, Pei Yuhui's reputation was still as loud as thunder. Back then, the old Marquis Pei had made his concubine the official wife, but she was ruthless and framed Pei Yuhui and his sister, who were born to the official wife, of adultery. She had them removed from the family tree and expelled from the Pei family, subjecting them to all kinds of humiliation. Pei Yuhui went into hiding under my father's command, leading a group to achieve military merits and regain his place in the court. After being recommended by my father to become the deputy minister of war, he climbed the ranks ruthlessly, rising to the position of chief minister at an astonishing speed. His sister, Pei Yu Zhao, was even more legendary, rising from a lowly palace maid in the laundry department to become a concubine in the palace within just a few years. Once the sister and brother came to power, they immediately joined forces to report the old Marquis Pei for embezzling millions of taels of silver and condoning the murder of his illegitimate children. The old Marquis Pei and all the adult men of the Pei family who had committed evil deeds were beheaded, with Pei Yuhui personally supervising the execution. Since then, the Pei siblings have been ruthless and decisive, and their reputation for killing their father and brother has spread throughout Beiyang, striking fear into the hearts of everyone. After winter set in, the emperor's health deteriorated. After issuing an edict appointing the son of consort Pei as crown prince and Pei Yue as regent, the court relied on him even more for all matters great and small. Now, Pei Yue was truly above all the other ministers, second only to the emperor himself. In my previous life, he had asked my eldest brother to inquire about my feelings before proposing marriage to me. But we never met. After so many years, I found it difficult to connect the man standing before me with the immature and stubborn young man I had known in the past. I did not exchange pleasantries, but simply bowed in accordance with protocol. Before he could speak, I took a stack of letters from my sleeve. Lord Pei, my husband Zhou Jingyan did indeed exchange letters with the southern Yu kingdom, and even revealed the location of the army camp to the enemy in his letters. His Majesty and Yu sentenced him to death, and he did not die unjustly. Before the execution, agents of the southern Yu kingdom attempted to steal him away, disrupting the execution and disturbing public order, which is an even greater crime. Zhou Jingyan disregarded the safety of the people and leaked military secrets. I am willing to present the evidence and beg you to review this case and sentence Zhou Jingyan to death by slow slicing. Pei Yue was somewhat startled but quickly regained his composure. Madam, you have acted with great righteousness. I admire your courage. However, Zhou Jingyan's secret dealings with the southern Yu kingdom must have been instigated by the spies already infiltrated there. Recently, the location where General Bai stored grain was leaked to the southern Yu army, and I suspect it is connected to the information network they have established in the northern Yan kingdom. However, the imperial guards have been investigating in the capital for days and have only arrested a few insignificant henchmen. This time, I have invited the lady here to inquire whether there are any other leads. Last year, my father was demoted by His Majesty due to the grain and supplies being burned. Fortunately, Pei Yue intervened, granting my father the opportunity to atone for his crimes. The enmity between us and them is likely far deeper than I had imagined. I placed the letter on the table and bowed respectfully to Pei Yue. Yes, I do have a lead. The one who has been infiltrating my northern Yan for years, luring Zhou Jingyan into treason, is none other than my longtime personal maid, Shi Mei. In my previous life, I could never understand why Zhou Jingyan and Shi Mei were capable of devising such a poisonous plot. They even calculated the lives of my 80,000 troops in the southern border and the hundreds of thousands of civilians along the frontier. But the memories from the carriage just now have enlightened me. In the southern Yu kingdom, women are valued for their gentleness and delicacy, while in our northern Yan kingdom, women are fierce and brave, capable of wielding steel spears on the battlefield. Additionally, the southern Yu people have suffered at the hands of our women on the battlefield. To mock the northern Yan women for their rudeness and barbarism, they gave them a derogatory nickname, Northern Barbarian Women. That was exactly what Zhou Hai called me when he insulted me before I died. He considered himself a native of Nanyue, not only because his father, Zhou Jingyan, had defected to Nanyue. It was also because his biological mother was a native of Nanyue, and he had half Nanyue blood in his veins. It turned out that it all started with a helpless little girl who was crying beside her parents' dead bodies, whom my father had saved back then. An intricate web of poison began to be woven around us in secret. Zhou Jingyan's crimes were piled upon one another, leaving him with no defense. He should have been subjected to the same torture I endured in my previous life, having my flesh carved out and my bones scraped clean. But Pei Yue was right. Zhou Jingyan and Shi Mei were merely small pawns in this vast, inescapable net. Every thread of that net was the culprit who had caused my family's tragic death in my previous life. Not a single one of them would escape. I deliberately waited until dawn before returning to the mansion. The first thing I did when I got home was to ask someone to fetch water, and I washed myself 7 times that day. Then I locked myself in my room and refused to see anyone. Shi Mei forced her way in, seeing my dazed and disoriented state. Her face filled with a sense of relief and satisfaction. A few days later, Zhou Jingyan was returned to the Zhou mansion, unharmed. Accompanying him were the official documents from the Ministry of Justice exonerating him of all charges. It stated that Zhou Jingyan's charges of colluding with the enemy and fleeing justice were all false accusations made by treacherous individuals, and that the truth had been uncovered. He was now reinstated to his former position. Shi Mei was overjoyed and rushed forward, throwing herself onto Zhou Jingyan, crying and laughing so much that she fainted from the excitement. The doctor took her pulse and discovered that she was already carrying Zhou Jingyan's child in her womb. It was truly a double blessing. The next day, Zhou Lao Furen summoned me to her room. This old woman was extremely malicious. Under the pretext of needing her daughter-in-law to fulfill her filial duties due to her illness, she demanded that I constantly provide her with expensive tonics and attend to her daily needs. She was always harsh and critical of me. But Zhou Jingyan said that his mother had raised him with great difficulty and was now terminally ill. So I should endure this dying woman. In my previous life, after Zhou Jingyan died, she said she was afraid that I would treat Zhou Hui badly and did not dare to die. So she ordered me to use the best medicine to prolong her life, almost emptying my dowry. In the end, she lived on with vigor, watching my entire family be executed, and even jumped up and clapped her hands in joy. This dying woman took her time dying. In this life, I must help her. The old woman's room was filled with the foul stench of illness, but her dark, triangular eyes shone with a festive glow. Zhou Jingyan supported the frail Shi Mei from behind, gently caressing her abdomen with infinite tenderness. Mother, Shi Mei was willing to sacrifice her virginity to bear an heir for me when my life was in jeopardy. She is truly a loyal servant. We can reward her in any way we see fit. The old lady smiled contentedly, revealing a mouth of yellow teeth. Then looked at me with disdain. I called you here to inform you that, to reward Shi Mei's loyalty, we have decided to make her your co-wife. From now on, the two of you will be equals, sisters in name, and must never be separated. Whatever you have, she must have something better. Your main room faces the sun, so hurry up and clear it out. Shi Mei will move in at noon, and after my golden grandson is born, she will live there. Zhou Jingyan also hurriedly added, and bring the fox fur coat and peacock fur coat from your dowry chest. Mei is precious now. How can she wear such ordinary cotton clothes? Watching them bossing everyone around, I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. A traitor to me has been rewarded with equal status simply for being loyal? They don't truly think I'm foolish, they simply don't regard me as a threat. They're trying to provoke me into losing my temper so they can punish me under the pretext of filial disobedience. Having lived a second life, these underhanded tricks no longer fazed me. But to get revenge for my past life more thoroughly, it was best to let them enjoy their self-righteousness for a while. It was especially satisfying to see people who had risen high fall down and break all their teeth. Since they wanted to provoke me, I would drive them crazy. What? A concubine? Gritting my teeth, I kicked over the jade green table, shattering the old woman's prized set of pink and white porcelain teacups into pieces. Zhou Jingyan, I am the daughter of the mighty general of the south, and you want me to be on equal footing with a slave girl from a poor family? Look around the entire capital. Only a man who married a poisonous and promiscuous woman and does not dare to divorce her would take a co-wife. Now you want to elevate your co-wife. Aren't you telling the entire capital that I am of poor character and unfit to be a wife? Zhou Lao Tai immediately lowered her face, her eyes so fierce they seemed to drip with venom. Humph. Shi Mei has an air. You should have voluntarily stepped down and gone to the temple outside the city to repent and cultivate yourself for my golden grandson. Now we are showing mercy by keeping you as the legitimate wife. And you still have the nerve to make a scene? Zhou Jingyan couldn't hide his disgust for me. Jia Yan, we've made such a big concession. And you're still not satisfied? All your previous thoughtfulness and consideration were just an act to win my favor. Shi Mei is your personal maid. Elevating her to the status of co-wife is actually raising your status. How can it be the same as those broken families? How can you, who claims to be an educated lady of noble birth, be so short-sighted in your thinking? You truly deserve to be called foolish. She may, upon hearing me call her a lowly maid, originally looked displeased. But upon seeing my furrowed brows and furious expression, she covered her face with a handkerchief and giggled secretly. She quickly turned around and placed her delicate hands on Zhou Jingan's heaving chest. My lord, please don't blame my sister. She's just venting her pent-up frustration and anger. That's why she acted out. Frustration and anger? Mayor, there's no need to defend this jealous woman. She's been living in luxury in the mansion, eating well and being waited on hand and foot. What frustration and anger could she possibly have? She's just putting on a show. She may deliberately wiped her dry eyes with her handkerchief. How could you know, my lord, that my sister was so anxious about the injustice you suffered that she begged that cruel and ruthless living devil, Prime Minister Pei, to take her as his plaything? She sacrificed even her chastity, which is most precious to a woman, for you. Such a sacrifice is something even Mayor couldn't do. My lord must not betray my sister. Otherwise, Mayor and the child in my womb will be the first to oppose you. Zhou's mother was stunned at first and tried to curse her, but a mouthful of phlegm blocked her throat. Zhou Jingyan was even more enraged and threw the jade scepter on the pillow at me. What do you mean? Submitting herself to the Lord Prime Minister? Bai Jiayan, what the hell did you do to her? The jade scepter grazed my forehead, leaving a red mark. I let out a cry of pain and gasped for air. Zhou Jingyan gritted his teeth and sneered. No explanation? Then it seems that Mayor was telling the truth. You slut. How dare you make me a cuckold? Zhou's mother coughed up a mouthful of thick phlegm and spat on my clothes. Bah! You motherless slut. Seeing my son in disgrace, you rush to climb up the social ladder? Don't you look at yourself? You're nothing but a whore. Don't tell me you found that lover to clear my son's name. My son is innocent. He's a good man. He has nothing to do with you. It's you who's a slut. You can't go a day without a man. So you deliberately humiliated my son. Someone, bring the family law. The Zhou family will not tolerate such a slut running wild. Several servants quickly brought forward a pair of heavy shackles used for criminals, covered in dried bloodstains. It was clear they had prepared this in advance. Several filthy old women approached, reaching out to strip my clothes while cursing. Such a disgraceful woman who doesn't keep her place should be drowned in a pig's cage in our village. Now she's only being stripped naked and paraded through the streets. Your sister-in-law is far too merciful. You, a woman of the Bai family, rely on your status and don't treat us with respect as your elders. Now you've finally gotten what you deserve. These are all poor relatives that Zhou's mother brought from her hometown, saying that they came to work. But I've been paying their monthly wages and treating them with respect as my elders. He's so despicable. I turned around and pulled out the sword hanging on the wall. There was a crisp sound of steel. The old woman who was shouting the loudest had a large chunk of her scalp and gray hair cut off. This sword was one that Zhou's mother had seen with a gem-encrusted scabbard and snatched from its owner to hang on the wall as a talisman. Now it had returned to its rightful owner. And it was just right for the occasion. Those old women were so frightened that they wailed like ghosts and did not dare to come any closer. Zhou Mu was both angry and frightened, frantically gesturing for the servants to come forward and arrest me. I used my sword to protect myself, glaring at Zhou Jingyan with a sinister expression. Since you are so certain that I have an affair with Pei Yuhui, and your family is humiliating me like this to take my life, aren't you afraid he will come after you? Upon hearing this, Zhou Jingyan's originally cold eyes flashed. She Mei stamped her feet, her face full of impatience and anger. Oh, madam, didn't I tell you long ago that Lord Pei was just taking advantage of you to have some fun? He didn't take you seriously as a woman. Why are you still dreaming of marrying two men? Are you stupid? Though we are women, we cannot entrust our lives entirely to men, hoping they will descend like gods to save us from disaster. Such daydreams are no different from those of fools. Listen to my advice. Soften your attitude. Humbly admit your mistake to your husband, and promise to treat him as your god from now on. He will slowly forget that you once had physical relations with another man. You will still have a place to eat in the Zhou family. The servants heard these imagined erotic scenes and exchanged glances, their faces filled with lust. This only fueled Zhou Jing'an's anger at being humiliated. No matter how powerful Pei Yuhui may be, I, Zhou Jing'an, am a scholar with an unbreakable spirit. I will never submit to his tyranny. His defiance of authority was expressed through a brutal order. He ordered the servants to seize the sword from my hand, shackle me with a 100-pound chain, hang a sign labeling me a whore, and parade me through the streets for all to see. I sliced off the ear of a short, stocky servant with a single stroke of my sword, enraging him like a mad dog. He covered his ear, his face covered in blood, and charged toward me, his stubby fingers reaching toward my chest. Shi Mei raised her chin defiantly. Zhou Mu's eyebrows danced with glee, and everyone in the room watched eagerly, anticipating my humiliation and the shattering of my dignity. Suddenly, the steward burst into the room, reporting urgently, "Lady Zhou, the master, the palace has sent someone to the courtyard to see you." Zhou Mu, her excitement interrupted, shouted hoarsely, "What palace? I don't care about them. Tell them to wait. Even if the emperor himself comes today, he won't stop me from punishing the slut. Keep going. Don't stop. Whoever catches her first will own her tonight." Zhou Jing'an raised his eyelids slightly and whispered to the butler, "Take the noble guests to the side hall and attend to them properly. Tell them there is an urgent matter at home and they must wait a moment before coming out to meet him." The steward left immediately, and the servants, encouraged, rushed forward and surrounded me in an instant. My sword was unable to move, and I was about to be disarmed. At the last moment, I gathered all my strength and threw the sword at the door latch with all my might. Without a weapon, if I failed, I would have to surrender. Fortunately, the sword skills my brother had forced me to practice every day had not been lost. The tip of the sword struck the door latch precisely, and with a loud click, the door swung open. Pei Yui's raven black cloak fluttered high in the wind, his sharp features exuding a menacing aura. The deplorable scene inside the room was laid bare before them. "Lord Zhou, the Empress has repeatedly issued decrees throughout the empire, ordering the noble ladies of the capital to do good deeds and refrain from killing, in order to pray for the emperor's health. I never expected that your household would disobey the emperor's orders and shut the doors to beat and kill the lady of the house. The emperor is now seriously ill, and it turns out that it is you evil people who are responsible." Pei Yui's words carried an air of authority that made no one dare to approach. Everyone in the room was stunned into silence, no one daring to move. Zhou Jing'an turned and slapped the steward across the face. "Why didn't you tell me Lord Pei was coming?" He then hurriedly went to greet him, his voice a little weak. "Lord, my wife made a mistake, and my mother punished her slightly to protect our family's reputation. It was not meant to be disrespectful to His Majesty. Please investigate." Pei Yui's amber-colored pupils dilated with even greater anger. "A few days ago, the Empress Dowager summoned your wife to Lord Pei's residence for a gathering. Because the Empress Dowager had left the palace in disguise to seek a renowned physician for the emperor, and she had instructed your wife not to tell anyone about it. If it weren't for me being entrusted by the Empress Dowager to deliver the New Year's gifts to your wife and clarify the previous matter, she would not only have her reputation ruined today, but her life might even be in danger." Madame Zhou kept her mouth shut. "Yet you have used her silence as evidence to slander her. Is it that you do not hold her in any regard?" Or do you dare to disrespect the Empress Dowager and this official? Zhou Jingyan did not dare to reply. But Zhou's mother was always coarse and ignorant. Seeing Pei Yuhui's anger, she was not afraid, but became even more arrogant. Humph! No matter how high a government official you are, you have no right to meddle in my family affairs. That lowly woman from the Bai family married into my family, and as her mother-in-law, I have no right to decide her life and death. How dare you, an outsider, give me orders? I am an old woman on the brink of death. Don't think you can intimidate me. Her eyes darted around, and she glanced at the palace maids behind Pei Yuhui, who were holding many gold and silver ornaments. Take all these gold and silver ornaments and have these maids send them to my room. In that case, I won't spread the shameful affair between you and my daughter-in-law around town. I have never loved such vulgar things as gold and silver. I am only accepting them to save face for the Empress. She probably doesn't know that her brother is acting so recklessly, coveting his colleague's wife. He is so shameless. Mei was so frightened that her face turned pale. She quickly pulled her sleeve and whispered, "Mother-in-law, Mr. Pei is a ruthless man who didn't even spare his own father. Mother-in-law, Lord Pei is a ruthless tyrant who didn't even spare his own father. Your daughter-in-law is worried that you will suffer. So don't go against him." Huh. When Mei was my maid, she often scolded that old woman for being ungrateful and acting like a mad dog. Now that she's the new daughter-in-law, she's completely forgotten what she once said. However, Zhou's mother, that mad woman, wouldn't take it lying down. Seeing Mei speaking against her, she slapped her across the face. "Shut up! Do you need to speak? The head of a fifth-rank official is right here. Let him come and take it. Come on. Dare he?" The maids in the mansion flatter and fawn over her all day long. Zhou Mu truly believes that Zhou Jingyan's safe escape from charges must have earned him the emperor's favor, and that he will soon be appointed to the cabinet. Who would dare touch a single hair on her head? Taking out her frustration on Mei is also a way to set boundaries for her future second daughter-in-law. Just as she was gloating over her clever plan to kill two birds with one stone, in the blink of an eye, a thin red line appeared on her wrinkled neck. Fresh blood spurted several feet high from the almost invisible red line. She was still smiling smugly. Blood droplets fell on her exposed teeth, and the terrifying scene sent shivers down the spines of everyone in the courtyard. When she realized her neck was gushing blood, she looked utterly disbelieving. "What? Who did this? You? Get out here. Do you want to die?" Before she could finish speaking, her obese body collapsed backward. Her cloudy triangular eyes stared wide with confusion. There was no sign of life left. Pei Yuhui's expression didn't change. He took out a snow-white handkerchief and wiped the blood splattered on his hands. I acted as if nothing had happened and invited him to the front hall for tea. Zhou Jingyan and a group of his relatives were left in the courtyard, wailing and crying like ghosts. Everyone believed that it was Zhou's mother who had spoken blasphemously, and Pei Yuhui had silently disposed of her. I secretly adjusted the thread in my sleeve. This was a treasure of the martial arts world that my brother had obtained by chance during his travels. A single thread was worth 10,000 pieces of gold. For this thread, as thin as a strand of hair, could take a life without a trace. In my previous life, I insisted on marrying Zhou Jingyan. Though my brother was displeased, he still gave me the string as a dowry for self-defense. I even laughed and said, "Zhou Jingyan is just a weak scholar, he can't even defeat me. He probably won't need such a top-notch hidden weapon." But in the end, I used it. I used it on my brother. Zhou Yihai caused my family to be sentenced to death by slow slicing, and my brother was tied to the chopping block at the vegetable market, where a piece of flesh was cut off every day. The executioner was the one who had been bribed by the southern Yu kingdom. Following the orders of Zhou Jingyan and Mei, he scraped my brother's flesh off his bones. But he was still hanging on to life, unable to live and unable to die. At the time, I was disguised and sent away by my father's old subordinates, planning to flee to the north. But I couldn't resist going to the execution site to see him one last time. I saw my brother's flesh exposed. Almost nothing but a skeleton. Numbly, I pulled out the trigger mechanism, pulled the trigger, and severed my brother's neck. My brother's blood had almost drained out, and only a few drops of dry black blood flowed from the cut. As I turned to leave, I was discovered by the old woman who came to see my brother's tragic state every day and applauded with great joy. She reported me to the authorities, and I was captured alive. I was then subjected to 78 tortures, and the pieces of flesh cut from my body were fed to wild dogs. I was left without a body, and my soul was scattered. Pei gently patted my trembling back, pulling me back to reality from the horrific memories. He knew, of course, that I hadn't killed him, and he could easily guess that I was the one who had done it. He only said that this was my first time killing someone, and I was afraid. That old woman had been lending money at exorbitant rates for years, forcing good women into prostitution and killing many people. You did the right thing. Even if you hadn't killed her, she wouldn't have lived past tonight. It was something I had to do. So I'll take responsibility for her death. It has nothing to do with you, he said in a deep voice to comfort me. When Pei returned to the palace, Zhou Jingyan was still there with the Zhou family's distant relatives, demanding an explanation. He coldly dropped a single sentence. Zhou Shilang will soon receive the official decree transferring him to the Secretariat. Entering the central bureaucratic institution and escaping the shackles of my family's lowly military officers has always been Zhou Jingyan's lifelong ambition. He immediately dropped his angry expression and turned to scold the elders who had just been following his orders to shout and attack. His mother had been gravely ill for years. Upon hearing the news of Mei's pregnancy, she passed away with a smile on her lips, which could be considered a happy death. Yet you gather here to cause trouble and extort money from Lord Pei, bringing shame upon her memory. These people were quickly driven back to their barren northern homeland and barred from ever returning to the capital. The filial son did not even properly arrange his mother's funeral, but instead rushed through it. He just stood at the door every day, looking up and waiting. He waited so long that his eyes became sunken and his forehead turned green. But he finally received the letter of appointment. He was overjoyed, hugging the letter and kissing it repeatedly, wishing that it would be morning already so he could go to the Ministry of the Secretariat to take up his new position. However, Mei, who was pregnant with his child and suffering from morning sickness, was not so happy. When Pei left, she left behind 2 palace maids, saying that they were to discipline the servants in the mansion who did not follow the rules. But in reality, the 2 of them were secret guards of the Imperial Guard, specializing in gathering confidential information. From the day they arrived, Zhou Jingyan and Mei's conversations in their room were no longer secret. Mei was uncomfortable due to her pregnancy, but she endured the morning sickness and served Zhou Jingyan for a while before speaking softly. My lord, I think you should not take the position in the Secretariat. If you go, you will not be able to obtain first-hand information about the border defenses from the Ministry of War. Zhou Jingyan's voice suddenly rose. Women are indeed short-sighted. Can I really risk my own future just to obtain information for you? Mei was shouted at and began to sob softly. My lord, you have such a cruel heart. Mei has defiled her purity for you, carries your child in her womb, and is beaten and insulted daily by the jealous and enraged young miss. This life of suffering is too much for me to endure. If you don't care about me, at least have mercy on the child in my womb. The women of Nanyue were gentle and affectionate, and after her tearful plea, Zhou Jingyan's tone softened considerably. All right, don't cry. Just be patient for a little while longer. Once I become Prime Minister, I will definitely divorce that barbarian woman and make you my official wife. But she has the Empress and Lord Pei backing her. So don't provoke her. If she beats and scolds you, just get out of the way. Why stand there like a fool and let her hit you? She Mei paused for a moment and stopped crying. What do you mean? Become a minister? My lord, you clearly promised that after the child is born, you would leave it with the barbarian woman to raise, and the two of us would return to Nanyue together. Why do we have to wait for you to become a minister? When will we be able to go back? What are you talking about? Do you think I would give up such a great future for a woman? That's not reasonable. How can you say that? My father is a high-ranking official in the southern Nanyue, a prominent noble family. He has been waiting for me to return home every day. If you come back with me, you will also have a bright future. Zhou Jing'an looked as if he had heard the biggest joke in the world. Your father? A powerless minister of rights in South Vietnam? How could he help me achieve my ambitions? Besides, I was dragged down by that barbarian woman and her family. I had talent but no way to serve my country. So I was forced to find another way to make a living. Now that Lord Pei has recognized my talent, I am sure to have a bright future. With my proud character, how could I possibly bow and scrape to the enemy and betray my country? From now on, never mention these things again. If Jiayan beats or scolds you, just endure it. She's not a bad person at heart, she's just taking her frustration out on you. Once the child is born, she'll surely soften her heart and accept you and the child. Just endure a few more months, and we'll get through this. Be good and don't cause any trouble. She Mei couldn't even cry, her face was filled with heartbreak and disbelief. She should have known better. Back then, she had used herself as bait to lure the greedy fish into the trap. She was doomed to be torn apart and devoured by others. When Zhou Jing'an took office, Shi Mei's gaze toward me grew even more filled with hatred. She was the daughter of a noble family from the southern Nanyue kingdom and a crucial pawn they had planted within our country. She must have some influence over the spies and agents stationed in the northern Nanyue kingdom. Now that she was in a difficult situation at the Zhou mansion, she certainly wouldn't sit idly by and wait for her fate. The shadow guards kept a close watch on her every move, but they never discovered any clues of her contact with the outside world. Until she started screaming that I had poisoned her, trying to abort her child, and caused a scene in front of Zhou Jing'an. Zhou Jing'an is highly regarded in the Imperial Secretariat. Busy during the day. Upon returning home to find Shi Mei clutching her stomach and weeping, he couldn't help but frown in irritation. I told you not to provoke the lady. To endure for now, and wait until after the child is born. Why won't you listen? The lady went to the Pei mansion specifically for my future, asking Lord Pei to give me a position. She loves me so much, how could she bear to harm my child? You really think too highly of yourself. At this point, Shi Mei no longer look like a helpless, pitiful woman. Instead, her eyes burned with a black flame of anger. I turned my head back to the courtyard and coldly threw the packet of abortion medicine into the pond. Very well. A woman who has been forced into a corner must find a way to fight for herself. As night fell, groups of despicable creatures began to rush about to complete their sacred mission. Soon, filthy rumors spread like wildfire, becoming the scandalous gossip that captivated the people of the capital. Everyone said that I had become the Chief Minister Pei Yuhui's secret mistress to clear Zhou Jing'an of charges and secure my own future. Pei Yuhui had defiled the wife of a minister, murdered his mother, treated human life with contempt, and acted with reckless abandon. He was utterly unfit to assist the crown prince or govern the realm. As for me, I was the promiscuous, frivolous woman they spoke of, unable to endure a day without a man, with countless commoners eager to share my bed. Pei Yuhui felt deeply ashamed. I never expected Shi Mei to be so despicable, using her connections to spread such slanderous rumors and tarnish her reputation. I merely smiled faintly. If not for this, we wouldn't have been able to trace the rumors back to their source and expose the numerous spies they've planted in my northern Nanyue kingdom to protect our nation. The men of the southern Nanyue are weak and incompetent. When fighting the northern Yen head-on, they always come up short. So they cultivated a large number of gentle and affectionate female spies. After brainwashing them into dedicating their lives to the country, they sold them to human traffickers in the northern Yen. Once bought back, these women stirred up trouble in the harem, flattering high-ranking officials to obtain military and political secrets, which they then passed back to the southern Nanyue for surprise attacks. Among those spies who were tracked down and arrested, there was a gentle concubine of the Minister of Personnel who was submissive and never made a fuss about her status. There was a concubine who gave birth to 5 illegitimate children for the commander of the army and was revered as a heroine of the family. There was a courtesan who fell in love with a 60-year-old grand counselor and willingly sold herself to become a maid in his mansion. And there was even a 70-year-old concubine who was so loved by the governor of Jingzhou that he raised her son as his own and respected her as his mother. Even the woman who had raised the current prefect of Jingzhou with care, who was now over 70 and treated with utmost respect, was also a spy from the southern Nanyue. The imperial guards discovered that she had killed the main wife of the household years ago, all to claim the child under her care, who possessed extraordinary talent. This shows how far-reaching the southern Nanyue's plans in our country truly are. These women were able to endure temporary humiliation in the battles of the harem, and later gained the upper hand. By serving their masters and investigating confidential information, they caused the Beiyang army to suffer repeated setbacks. They were all extremely intelligent and powerful figures. It's just a pity that they were born in the southern Nanyue, a country that treated them as tools. Though our positions differ, even if I feel pity for them, I will never forget that they were determined to trample our northern Yen territory and people underfoot. Some of them I recognize from my previous life. They had risen to become matriarchs in the mansion, showing great kindness to Zhou Hui, often sending him precious fabrics and delicacies. The poisonous plot that killed my entire family in my previous life was meticulously planned by them, working together seamlessly. Now that the location of the spies has been uncovered, how to deal with them and how to utilize them, Nanyue will certainly exploit them to the fullest. Over the next half-year, the southern Nanyue kingdom spent decades weaving a dense and vast network of spies within our country, which was gradually unraveled and collapsed. However, the people on Mei's line are essential for my revenge, so I requested that Nanyue spare them for now. Zhou Jing'an has no further use, so Nanyue plans to execute him for treason as originally intended. But I asked him to wait a little longer. It's like a cat catching a mouse, letting go of its claws and letting it think it has regained its freedom. Then it slaps it back and plays with it like this. That's what makes it interesting. Before long, Nanyue returned Zhou Jing'an to the Ministry of War, citing his poor performance in the Ministry of Central Administration over the past few months as grounds for his dismissal. How arrogant he was when he left the Ministry of War. Now he was back. He was a disgrace. The huge difference made him angry and ashamed every day. He even asked me several times to serve Nanyue and take the opportunity to speak well of him. Only the birth of Zhou Hai made him a little happier. Mei was sad, angry, and fearful during her pregnancy, and she gave birth prematurely after 3 days and 3 nights of pain. In my previous life, I had taken meticulous care of Mei during her pregnancy, and Zhou Hui was born full term, white and plump, truly stirring my compassion. But this prematurely born wolf cub, wrinkled and ugly like a hairless monkey, opening his mouth to beg for milk when hungry, was simply infuriating to look at. When she spread his legs and saw that he had a penis, Mei immediately regained some of her energy. Sister, you don't have to be so sad and desperate just because you can't give birth to a son. From now on, treat this child as your own. When you are old and lonely, he will be there to take care of you. He did take care of me in his previous life. But he sent me to the Avenge hell, where I suffered 72 kinds of punishment. Mei was still gloating over giving birth to a son. Sister, look at this child. How could he be so fair and adorable? When he grows up, He will surely be as handsome as a gentleman. From now on, this child's food, clothing, housing, and transportation will all depend on you, so he won't have to suffer by following me." She hugged the ugly Zhouhui and eagerly tried to push him into my arms. I remembered his vicious face from my previous life, and seeing such an ugly face again made me feel sick to my stomach. I hurriedly dodged backward. The child was hit on the head in the shoving and started crying loudly. I looked at the face crying like a dirty old man and was about to turn and leave. Suddenly, a familiar voice drifted through the cries. "You're killing me. This barbarian woman wants me dead. You can't even hold a child properly. I finally reincarnated to take revenge. And she's going to make my brilliant little brain go dumb. She'll never be able to pay for that. I'll cry louder. Make her feel so guilty she can't sleep all night. When I grow up, I'll remind her every day about how she hurt my head. She'll definitely compensate me with money, and I'll use it to subsidize her dowry to her most hated grandmother. Ha ha ha. What a fool. She can't even handle me?" What I heard was Zhou Hui's inner thoughts. He had actually reincarnated back to his infancy. At this moment, he still thinks that I am the weak and stupid Bai Jiayan from his previous life. He deludes himself into thinking that he can get resources from me to rise to the top, and then stab me in the heart. I paused for a moment and stopped walking away. Instead, I reached out to Xi Mei with a smile, pretending to take the child. Then, the moment Xi Mei let go, I suddenly pulled my hand back. Zhou Hui, wrapped in swaddling clothes, fell backward like a cabbage. With a thud, his head hit the cold, hard ground, instantly forming a large bump. This time, he couldn't even cry, choking on his breath and gasping for air. With such a hard fall, he might really turn into a fool when he grows up. But there was no need to worry too much. In my hands. How could he live to grow up safely? That was wishful thinking. Zhou Hui didn't die from the fall, but he was left with a large bump on his head that wouldn't go away. And he was listless and lethargic all day long. I searched far and wide for a doctor, eventually finding the most incompetent one within 100 miles, and paid a fortune to have him treat Zhou Hui. Of course, the treatment only made things worse. For this reason, I often visited Zhou Hui. First, to see his pitiful state, being tortured by the incompetent doctor. Second, his heartfelt words revealed to me the latest moves of Zhou Jing'an and Xi Mei. Zhou Jing'an's dream of rising to prominence was shattered. But Xi Mei was overjoyed. She spent her days tempting Zhou Jing'an to return to the southern Yu kingdom with her, promising him a bright future there. Given this situation, I often encouraged and comforted Zhou Jing'an. My lord is a man of unparalleled talent, though he has suffered a temporary setback. If he remains patient and bides his time, he will surely rise again. Zhou Jing'an became even more unwilling to flee to the southern Yu, daydreaming about his eventual comeback. But besides me, there was someone else who did not wish him well. Zhou Hui, without my care in this life, was injured and lacked medical attention. He suffered from dizziness and nausea, unable to eat milk. Whenever he felt unwell, he cursed his father in his heart. Useless trash. Just die already. Let my mother not waste her life here. Then I can finally become the legitimate heir and enjoy the support and resources of the northern barbarian woman. Two useless people can't even afford a good doctor. What's the point of having a child? He dragged it out until Zhou Hui was 5 months old. He still couldn't move, couldn't roll over, vomited milk at the slightest provocation, and was limp and lifeless. Xi Mei, seeing her son's frail condition, was desperate. She used her connections multiple times to try to find a doctor to examine him, but I deliberately blocked them before they could enter the mansion. My sister said she would let me raise the child. Yet now she not only refuses to give him up but also suspects the doctor I hired. This is truly heartbreaking. She may thought that I was jealous of her for keeping the child and was deliberately making things difficult for her. However, Zhou Jing'an was still unable to make up his mind about returning to Nanyue. In her desperation, She May played her trump card. She personally arranged for someone to bite Zhou Jing'an and accuse him of colluding with Nanyue and providing them with military intelligence. The evidence was irrefutable. The case was retried by the Ministry of Justice, with Su Derin, who had presided over the execution years ago, leading the investigation. Back then, the prisoner had nearly escaped under his nose, causing Su Derin great embarrassment. This time, Zhou Jing'an had no chance of getting off lightly. The verdict was issued through a special channel approved by Pei Yuhui, ordering Zhou Jing'an's immediate execution. She May feigned tears as she pleaded with me to take Zhou Yihui to visit Zhou Jing'an in prison. The three of them looked warm and harmonious. Zhou Yihui teased Shi May, who was holding Zhou Yihui in her arms, showing no fear of death. He even questioned me dissatisfiedly. I see that Huire is so thin and doesn't smile much. How did you raise him? As his legitimate mother, how could you treat your illegitimate son so harshly? How can I leave with peace of mind? By Jia Yan, you had better take good care of Huire. He is the only heir of the Zhou family. After I die, he will be your sole reliance. Otherwise, as a childless widow, who will take care of you in your old age? If you still refuse to change, I will definitely have my friends in the capo report you to the Women's Affairs Bureau for the crime of jealousy. I raised my hand and slapped a divorce decree in his face. I'm sorry, but I don't want to be a widow. Before you die, let's divorce and have nothing to do with each other. From now on, I have no obligation to raise your ugly monkey of a son. Let him die wherever he pleases. Zhou Yihui burst into tears of disbelief. What's wrong with this northern barbarian woman? I'm so cute, any woman who sees me would be overcome with maternal love and want to hold me close and kiss me. Yet you don't even want to raise me? How shameless! What gives you the right? Zhou Jing'an, of course, wouldn't agree so easily, forget it. Since you married me, you're my Zhou family's daughter-in-law, and you must raise my son with all your heart and soul. Otherwise, you're an unfilial, jealous woman. I smiled brightly. Your family has given me so many titles: unchaste slut, unfilial daughter-in-law, unkind stepmother. It doesn't matter. If that's how you want to think, then I'll just do what I want. As long as I'm happy, who cares what you think? And that's not enough. Today, I'll add another one, disrespectful shrew. With that, I raised my foot high and kicked Zhou Jing'an's arrogant face with all my might. There was a loud bang as the back of his head hit the iron bars of the prison cell. He was bounced back, landing face first on the ground in a humiliating heap. He struggled to get up, still trying to curse, but I punched him in the face again, causing him to spit out several blood-stained teeth. It seems that all those days of practicing martial arts weren't wasted. Shi May stood by without intervening, her eyes dark and cold. Zhou Yihai understood his mother very well. My mother is wise. No matter how painful it is, she can't stop me. Let this northern barbarian woman beat me until my father gives up hope and I'll go home with my mother obediently. Humph. As if she could stop me even if she wanted to. On the day of the execution, I deliberately took the best seat and had someone set up a soft couch next to the execution ground. I also had tea and nuts set out, so I could watch Zhou Jing'an meet his end in comfort. The executioner and the soldiers at the execution ground, who had been arranged by Pei Yuhui, had already pretended to accept their bribes and agreed to turn a blind eye to the matter. The executioner and the soldiers at the execution ground also pretended to have been bribed, pounding their chests and guaranteeing that Zhou Jing'an's life would be spared. Most crucially, Pei Yuhui had previously expressed deep regret over Zhou Jing'an's death sentence. As if he couldn't bear to see such a talented man meet his end so easily. These illusions made the few confident that this time, their scheme to swap bodies would be even smoother than last time. Joey Hui was even more eager and excited. Father and mother, hurry back to Nanyue, or else you'll hinder me from showing my skills and taking revenge. In my previous life, that villain Pei Hui destroyed our country of Nanyue for the sake of the northern barbarian woman and sacrificed me to her. What great things can a lovesick fool who is controlled by love ever accomplish? When I grow up, I will definitely find a way to kill that shameless living devil first. This was the first time I had heard of this, and I was extremely surprised. But before I had time to think about it, the executioner's sword had already fallen, and I didn't blink, staring intently at Zhou Jing'an, who stood on the platform with a righteous and arrogant look on his face. He even flashed me a smile that he thought was wicked and arrogant, but was actually a little proud and sarcastic. But the two missing front teeth made him look like a clown from a play. Ridiculous and laughable. In the next instant, the executioner raised his sword and struck down without hesitation. Blood spattered everywhere, and the head rolled to my feet with a thud. It turned out that the head didn't die immediately after hitting the ground, it still had some consciousness. Zhou Jing'an on the ground was covered in dust, his eyes wide with confusion and disbelief. His pale lips mumbled something, but he could no longer utter the words. How could this happen? He lay completely still, dead. Behind me, Shimei pushed Joey Hui into my arms and picked up the head from the ground in a daze. She felt the bloody head over and over again, staring at it intently. Finally, she confirmed that it was the eyes, ears, mouth, and even the mole in the corner of the eye, as well as the two missing front teeth that I had knocked out a few days ago. It was indeed Zhou Jing'an, the man she had entrusted her life to and deeply loved in both her lives. Suddenly, she threw the head away, rushed to the execution platform, and frantically pulled at the wooden boards on the ground. But those boards were nailed down with iron nails and couldn't be opened, let alone hide a person. No matter how you looked at it, Zhou Jing'an was dead. Shimei rushed to the executioner's side, shaking his body frantically and shouting at the top of her lungs. What's going on? You took our silver. How could you really cut off his head? Has your conscience been eaten by dogs? The executioner, accused of such a crime, was naturally enraged. With a powerful swing of his arm, Shimei's fragile body flew into the air and crashed heavily onto the ground, spitting blood. No. This can't be. My lord. He was just putting on a show. I had everything arranged. How could he really be beheaded? He's dead. I'll have to return to Nanyue alone, even if I regain my status as a noble lady. What's the point? What's the point? She admitted in front of everyone that she was a spy for the Southern Yu Kingdom. And now she wants to return to the Southern Yu Kingdom unharmed and live as a noble lady? That's a nice thought. A few days later, I went to see Shimei in prison and brought her the head of the man she had been longing for. When she saw the head, which was already starting to rot, she stared at me with bloodshot eyes and shouted angrily. Bai Jiayan! It was you! You're the one who killed my beloved. You've committed countless atrocities. And we've already shown you mercy time and again. We even graciously agreed to let you raise my son. Yet you still dared to take his life? Did I owe you from a previous life? Why? Why? I curled my lips into a smile. You've hit the nail on the head. In my previous life, your plan succeeded. You and Zhou Jing'an lived a life of wealth and happiness in Nanyue, leaving Joey Hui, that vicious bastard, by my side. He caused the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people on the border, 80,000 soldiers of the Bai family army, my father, my older brother, and 79 members of the Bai family. All of us died unjustly. I managed to live another life. Do you think I'd let you off the hook? From the moment you entered the prison cell to be with him, every move you made was under my control. To me, you're just two puppets in a game, being manipulated by me to destroy yourself step by step. Shimei's eyes burned with fire. But her face wore a confident smile. Say what you want. Bai Jiayan. You harmed me and my husband. But you cannot change the course of fate. Your border army's battle plan has long been intercepted by our people and sent to Nam Viet. Judging by the timing, your useless old father and the Bai army he leads are probably already trapped in a dense forest filled with poisonous fumes. Unable to escape. Sacrificing a few of us in exchange for decades of peace for Nanyue. And a few lives in exchange for the cheap lives of hundreds of thousands of people in Beiyan. Is a very good deal. Ha ha. Is that so? I smoothed my hair, smiled brightly, and took out a military report. Your sister, who bore children for that old man, has long been exposed because of the scandalous stories you told me about her. Guess what? Do you think the information spread by someone who has long been exposed is true or false? Your weak and incompetent army in South Yu has been lured out of the mountains by false information. Without the cover of the dense forests and poisonous mists, can they still fight against our Bai family army? Instead of thinking about the greater good of your country, you should be more concerned about your own son. This white-eyed wolf who caused my tragic death in my previous life is now in my hands. Thanks to you. I turned and left, leaving behind a string of carefree laughter, mixed with Shi Mei's heart-wrenching screams of regret. It sounded especially pleasant. That day, I went to visit Zhou Hui, whom I had abandoned in a desolate village for several months, holding the increasingly ugly and deformed infant in my arms. I spoke to him gently. Huai'er, you're so pitiful. Your father betrayed the country, and your mother is a spy. Thinking about your background, I feel so heartbroken for you. Zhou Hui was overjoyed. The stupid old woman has finally come to her senses. She must be planning to take good care of me now. I knew that this cheap, barbaric woman would not be able to control her overflowing maternal love when she saw how pitiful I looked. Damn it! She abandoned me to these vulgar country people. I haven't had a clean diaper in days. When I grow up, I will definitely take revenge. I continued to tell him the story. Your mother seems to have gone mad. I heard that she hugs your father's head and sings love songs from Nanyue to him every day. But even though the weather is cold, she can't stand it for long, and the head has rotted and started to ooze green, stinking corpse water. But your mother doesn't care at all and still kisses the rotten head with an intimate expression. She really loves him deeply. Zhou Hui gagged several times. You're the one who's crazy. Your whole family is mad. Who tells an infant such disgusting things? Are you out of your mind? Bai Jiayan? Shut up and stop talking. But I continued with even more enthusiasm. Unfortunately, heaven was blind. Your mother also contracted the corpse poison, her skin rotting and turning black, and she began to emit the same foul odor as the head. In the end, her body rotted away until there was no flesh left, and she clung to her skull, which had turned into white bones, and took her last breath. Shut your filthy mouth. You old hag. Don't you dare say another word. I order you not to. If you say another word, I'll cut out your filthy tongue. I deliberately stuck out my tongue as long as I could. Zhou Hui, you're nothing but a piece of trash. How dare you order me not to speak? I will speak. I will speak. And I will make you die in disgust. You little bastard. Slightly. 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 The baby in his arms showed a look of shock that was not appropriate for his age. What? What's going on? You can hear my thoughts? That's impossible. Zhou Hui. Nothing is impossible. Since you were able to be reborn, what's so surprising about me being able to hear your thoughts? How can it be the same? I was reborn because I did good deeds in my previous life, and God gave me the opportunity to come back and take revenge. Before he could finish speaking, there was a loud crack, and a huge thunderbolt struck, knocking over a large tree outside the house and setting the trunk ablaze. There was thunder in broad daylight, and it seemed that God did not agree with him at all. I had no choice but to explain for God. Zhou, you are extremely confident. But I have to tell you that what you said is completely wrong. I lifted him high and aimed at the raging flames outside the window. God gave you a second chance at life so that I could kill you. You dirty, rotten wolf. With my own hands and avenge the destruction of my family in my previous life. With that, I exerted all my strength and threw the reborn Zhou precisely into the center of the flames. The fire immediately engulfed his swaddling clothes. In the flames, his curses quickly turned into groveling pleas for mercy and repentance. Finally, only the agonizing screams of someone beyond human speech remained. Then his life force gradually weakened. Until, in the end, everything fell silent. Only the crackling sound of the flames burning remained. Though the great vengeance of my past life had been avenged, my heart felt both relieved and exhausted. My body was weak, and I walked with unsteady steps, as if I were still trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Stumbling out of the village, my vision went black. My legs grew weaker, and I was drenched in sweat. A protruding rock on the ground tripped me, and I fell forward. I thought I was going to fall flat on my face, but my body was suddenly caught by a pair of strong hands. It was Pei, covered in dust and fatigue. I heard from your servants that you had come to the eastern suburbs, so I came to check on you. From a distance, I saw the fire and rushed over. Luckily you're okay. The warmth from his hands seeped through the fabric and into my arms, like a current pulling me back from hell to earth. He furrowed his brows with concern, his amber-colored pupils gazing deeply at me, an expression I had never seen before. In my previous life, I had thought he had only proposed to me to repay my father's kindness. I looked at the executioner in panic and cried out. Fortunately, this time, everyone important is still alive. Everything is still possible. Pei led the horse over, helped me mount it, and then led the horse himself, walking far ahead. I patted the horse's head and whispered to it guiltily. Little red horse, you'll have to work hard today. After saying that, I tilted my head and hummed softly. Prime Minister, I feel a bit dizzy. Riding alone, I might fall off. Would the honorable official be willing to ride with me on the same horse? As the sun sets in the west, two people and a horse move slowly forward, our silhouettes stretching out in the fading sunlight. The noise has faded away, and the rest of our lives are just beginning.